Have you ever bought a board game when your spouse said no? Have you ever won a game on an insane dice roll? Have you ever killed a dragon using only chopsticks? Have you ever paid an elf to watch your kids? Can you roll the dice while eating 3 Hot Pockets at the same time? Can you ride a panda across the plains of Doo-Dee Dewey? Can you stop an evil wizard from destroying your village? Can you summon a creature to do your chores? Can you muster the strength to carry a group to victory? Can you be the chosen one all the way up to bedtime? Have you ever dared to say no and betray your alliance? Have you ever accused a friend of being a traitor when it was you all along? Well, we haven't done most of those things either, but we are willing to try. Join us as we explore the world of board gaming and all the crazy things that come with it. Welcome to the Epic Gaming Night Podcast.
Welcome to the Epic Gaming Night Podcast. I'm Roy Kennedy, your host, and with me as always are Matt.
Hello.
Hey.
And Rob.
Hey.
Nice. So, how you guys doing?
You know, Matt's eating a cookie. I'm jealous about that. It looks delicious. Doing pretty good. Excited for the podcast. You know, excited to talk to you guys. I missed you terribly.
Let's talk about board games.
Oh, yeah. Let's not talk about feelings or anything. That's fine. Sure.
No, feelings are cool, too. They're important.
Let's not get real right now.
Let's not get
Not
too
right now.
real.
Back to the fantasy world.
So, tonight we're going to be talking about game stores, but first we're going to talk about what we've been playing recently.
So I'll go ahead and start off because mine's real quick. So you may have heard me talk about my buddy Steven before in the past, not feeling really well. They think he has Lyme disease, so he can't go outside. Like, he literally sits in a dark room 24/7. And when we talked about Summoner Wars last week, I was like, hey, that would be fun to introduce to my friend Steven. I need to go check on him, just say hi, check on a buddy. And so I played Summoner Wars with Steven and had a blast. And that kid is so smart. I mean, he picked up on it really quick. But we had a good time. And then we talked about The Witcher, because he's also playing The Witcher.
Which factions did you guys play?
I played it was the Fallen Phoenix. It was the new alliance group with the Fallen Kingdom mixed in with the Phoenix Elves.
With the undead Prince Eladin guy?
Yes. And then he played, it was the Benders and somebody else. But man, okay, the Bender faction is just amazing. And now with this new alliance and all the stuff they can do, I mean, he's new to the game, so he didn't really pick up on the combos, but I was reading some of his cards. That is really going to be a tough faction to fight. Like, you'd have to attack them quickly, because if they can get up their magic where he can do a lot of stuff, because he has cards where he can play extra magic during his turn to actually do extra moves and do extra spells. Where usually when you play Summoner Wars, you have, 3 people can move, 3 people can attack. Well, he can spend an extra magic to do more. So they want to build up magic so they can just do like 5 or 6 moves in a turn. They are ridiculous. Like, every time I beat him, I had to beat him quick. If I let him hang around too much, he would just he'd wipe the floor with me.
I always thought the Benders from the Master Set were kind of like the jerk faction, because they were always like, oh, I undo what you did and I lock down your people and all that stuff. It felt like they felt like Blue in Magic almost, like undoing your stuff and locking your people down and unsummoning your people sort of thing.
The Fallen Kingdom, though, the Fallen Elves or the
Fallen Phoenix.
Fallen Phoenix, yeah. They have some really cool abilities, because they have this one guy where he swings on 2, he's got 3 health, and he gets summoned on 2 magic. But if he destroys an enemy, he has a chance to roll a die, and on a 4, 5, or 6, he brings in a conjuration little skeleton guy, and those conjuration guys, once they get brought in, you discard the top card of your opponent's magic pile. And I was actually getting really good rolls, and so I was killing a lot of his people, and he wasn't able to build up his magic, because every time one of those guys came out, it also discarded the top card of your magic card.
Nice.
So they are definitely a faction I want to play more with, because I always like the Fallen Kingdom anyway, and then the Phoenix Elves, they're great, and so this really fun faction. We need to get more people into this game because it's so much fun.
Yeah, Matt. We talked about it a little bit last week, but Summoner Wars is like a tactical. It's like a miniatures game with cards almost, where you're like on this
Pretty
grid.
much, yeah.
It's kind of like fantasy miniatures, almost like on a sort of like a chessboard, sort of almost. But you're moving around trying to kill off your opponent's summoner. That's like, oh, okay, cool, yeah.
No. His face, like he had a cookie, and all of a sudden you started talking. He's like, it's just gone.
Hey man,
Had to
talking
get rid of it.
about games makes him hungry.
It's just his beard. I love his beard.
Technically, I had to eat it because it wouldn't fit in the gallon bag with the rest of the cookies.
Nice.
So I was like, I can't leave this out in the open. It's been a day.
But yeah, Summoner Wars is pretty cool.
It's a lot of fun.
I guess I can talk about the game that I'm going to talk about. I went over to my friend JJ's house, and I played Nations, the dice game.
How is that?
It was actually pretty fun. So Nations is like this civilization building game. I've never actually played actual Nations. I've heard that's pretty complex and pretty long and stuff like that. So it seems like it'd be something I'd like to try, but it might be a little bit crazy. But Nations, a dice game, they say takes a lot of nations as far as the civ stuff and turns it into like maybe 45 minutes to an hour or maybe a little bit more than that. But we played 4 players and we played 2 games like really quick. But yeah, it's cool because you start off with 5 dice and they have like different resources on them. There's one that's just gold that allows you to buy different things from this little in the middle of the board. There's this little place where they put out all these tiles. And the tiles are randomly put out there at the beginning of the game, and so the first row cost 1 gold, the second row cost 2 gold, and the third row cost 3 gold. Or like sometimes they cost like military, so you can actually like forcefully take the cards. So you have to play gold or military, but it's different each time you play the game. So one tile that could cost 1 gold one game could cost 3 gold another game. So you kind of have to try to buy the things at a good price and stuff like that. But you're rolling these symbols, trying to buy those tiles, which will give you like more rerolls and better dice and things like that. 'Cause you start out with all the basic dice that just have the gold, the combat, the food, and then there's stone, which allows you to build these wonders to try to get points. And then and then you can get better dice that are more like focused. So like the gold dice has like the yellow die has a bunch of like gold on it and like a bunch of food, and then like the blue die has a bunch of books which can help you with your little book learning research thing, which you can get points off of. There's a bunch of different ways to get points in the game, mostly through fulfilling different agendas that come up each round to get food or swords. Basically, famine or war. You're trying to get like enough dice of those symbols to be able to get points for that, and then have points from books, and then have points for building wonders. There's all sorts of different points. It's like one of those games. It's like the Euro-ish kind of game where you're just trying to get points of all the different places and end up with the most at the end. It was really fun. We played the first game, and I ended up in like the middle of the pack, and I didn't get as many of like these recurring tokens as like some of the other people. And the second game, I started off with like a lot more. So by like the I'm pretty sure Roy won. And there's not a whole lot you can do in that game to like really interact with other people besides trying to buy something before they do. But it's also still not really like he would want that tile more than I would, so I'll buy it to refuse him. It's just like the good tiles are good and the okay ones are okay, so you just always buy the thing that's best on your turn. It's not like the decision making's too hard, but it's a dice game. It's pretty light. Yeah. So, but yeah, I thought it was a lot of fun. It was pretty cool for one of those games where you're trying to get the most victory points. So, I did post on Instagram a picture of the game, and they're like, "Oh, this game, you'd pretty much have to be blind to like the graphic design in this game, because basically it's very like plain Euro-ish looking. Like it's really brown and like monotone colors, where most of the pictures I post are like these crazy spaceships and like miniatures everywhere, and this one was like
fantasy lands or something like that.
Yeah, and they're like, "Oh, this game looks bad." Not bad, but it's
not great. Yeah.
So, but it was still fun to play. So, Nice. Matt, what did you play?
I played that one game that was demoralizing.
Traumatizing?
Slightly.
Eldritch Horror?
So I wasn't sure if it was Eldritch Horror or Arkham Horror. I just remember it was horror, and a lot of tentacles happened.
So, Eldritch Horror is like the entire world, and Arkham Horror is like just Arkham, Massachusetts, or whatever it is.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
And then Mansions is just a house in that area.
Yep, and then
We played
Elder Sign is just a library.
So we played that game, and we tried to pile all of the corpses we could in Sydney, Australia. I think we got 5 there by the end of the game. We had 5 dead people in Sydney.
So
it was good. It was fun.
So what is the game like? How does it play? Or...
I mean, so ultimately, there's like a mission card that gets revealed that you have to do things for. Feel free to take off whenever. Thanks, puppy. So there's like a mission card that comes up with a specific task that you have to do. So everybody's on the board, and there's all these different cities or rural locations and all the stuff that you can go to, and there are like wormholes. I don't like portals to other dimensions opening up that you need to go like close, and monsters coming out, and these quests do different things based off like what you need to accomplish, and you have to defeat these quests 3 times in order to beat like the penultimate bad guy.
Cthulhu.
Well,
yeah,
we were playing against Yog Shoggoth, which was trying to rip open the fabric of space and time due to these different summoner magic user guys trying to use his magic or whatever.
He sounds like a jerk.
He won.
He was a jerk. But
I'm
not sure if he was that bad or if the plague rumor card that we drew like the first turn was that bad.
That was awful. It was like turn 1. It's like, hey, everybody's sick. So every time something bad happens, everybody takes damage. It gets increasingly higher every time something bad happens. So it got to the point where you could just spawn, and if your character was low enough health, just die immediately. Yeah. Because nobody had enough clues, which is like one of the technical currencies I would say in the game that you can use.
The game is awesome, but it's tough.
Yeah, it's a little rough.
Yeah, so
there's a lot of fun though, but
at the beginning of the game you have your Great Old One, which the game feels very different depending on the Great Old One you do. Like if you have Cthulhu, you'll have a lot of missions that have to do like the sea spaces and the water, and then like with Yog Shoggoth there was a lot of like things with magic and portals opening up and stuff like that. So depending on the Great Old One, the game's very different. But you set up a Mythos deck based on the Great Old One, and like it'll say, oh, put this many of this in like stage 1 of the game and this many of this in stage 2. But the Mythos cards have like different symbols on them. So the hard ones have like tentacles on them, and if you want to play the easy game, you take all the tentacle ones out. And I've never like actually like wanted to make the game easier because of that. But if you want to play the game on hard mode, there's like these Mythos cards that are easier, and they have like these little like blue sparkly like arcana looking like magic on the side of them, and you take those out if you want to play the hard game. But then you randomize it all. Basically the first like 5 Mythos cards we drew all had the tentacles on them, so they were like the very difficult Mythos cards. The first one was this plague sickness that was damaging us every single round that a reckoning came up, which like the next 2 or 3 things were reckoning. So it was like you take 1 damage, everybody takes 1 damage, everybody takes 2 damage, everybody takes 3 damage, everybody takes 4 damage, and at that point everybody was dead.
Yeah.
So but it was interesting, like we worked really hard. Me and Hector ran around to these gates doing these encounters to get the first mission completed. Then the second mission we needed to like use spells and get rid of those spells to be able to complete it. But we just kept dying so fast that we couldn't actually get it to happen. But it was kind of interesting because like when you die in this game, When your character dies, you place the character on the map and just put like the token of whether they went insane or whether they actually like died from stamina. And then you can have an encounter with that character and you can like pick up their items and like roll a thing to try to retreat the doom, because when they die, the doom comes up, which means that the Great Old One is more likely to wake up. But if you have an encounter with them, it'll go back down. So we were doing really good at making the doom go back down when our characters died, but that just prolonged our misery, basically.
Yeah.
But I was telling everybody, hey man, this game is rough sometimes, and it's mostly because we just drew really bad Mythos cards. But it's also very Lovecraftian, because in the Lovecraft world, nothing is good. Humanity has no chance against these Great Old Ones. They're going to just devour everyone. So I was like, it pretty much fits with the theme of the game.
Yeah. I mean, I think it had a really good theming, and a lot of the stuff that was going on was like really, there was more depth to it than just go here, roll for a thing, buy this, use that to smash this thing. Like, it was like everything had like good flavor text and like decent artwork and stuff, so you always had something to look at or read and kind of get absorbed into your particular story.
Yeah, with that game especially, we make sure everybody like reads their encounter cards and like everybody knows what's going on and why this terrible thing happened to you. It's because the shadowy man came and tried to steal your soul, and you just barely got away from him, but you end up crippled and your legs broke running away or something crazy like that.
Have you played the expansion yet, Roy?
I have both the expansions, and that might have been part of our problem, because I had a lot of the expansion cards mixed in, so I think there were a lot, once you add those expansions, it adds a lot more of those,
Makes it tougher, doesn't it?
yeah, it adds more of those tentacle cards, so I might need to readjust what I've actually added into the game, because, like, one day there was like a heat stroke, so everybody was like losing health because of the heat stroke, and the next day we all had hypothermia because it was freezing, and I'm just like, because there's a lot of like snow and stuff with the Mountains of Madness, so there's a lot of like hypothermia and snow and like all that craziness, so I might need to reevaluate the modules that I currently have mixed in with my base set.
I think the great thing about the hypothermia was like everybody's got hypothermia, and it was like, God, this is awful. And then we all died to the plague next turn, so it didn't matter. It was like perfect. Here we go.
Yeah, I think y'all got hypothermia when my character was already dead.
Yeah.
So I was like, oh, then, I don't get that because I'm dead, but it's still terrible.
Unhypothermic, and then the next round we drew it, and then we all died to the plague, and then something bad happened to you because you were the only one alive. And I was like, yes.
I still had fun, even though like it was an utter struggle into failure. It was funny because like we were playing live on stream like we do every Friday night at 6 to 10 p.m. on our Twitch channel.
Eastern Standard Time.
But yeah, we just had people in chat like taunting us, like, you guys are gonna lose, you guys are failing so bad. I'm like, dude, guys, lighten up, we can do this. And like, no, man, you're gonna die. It was pretty fun.
We pulled the board game out, and one guy was just like, well, I'll see you guys at the end of the game when you're done and everybody's dead.
Yeah, he literally like left the stream and came back like an hour and a half later and was like, oh, I see you guys are losing. And we're like, man, you're right, we're sorry. It was
pretty
fun,
good.
though.
Hey, quick plug before we get into it. I'm actually wearing right now my shirt, one of my shirts from the Analog Gamer, the Red Knight shirt.
Oh, awesome.
So I just want to do a shout out. Very comfortable, fits very well. I like it a lot. I'll be ordering more.
I still haven't even put mine on.
What? I was wearing I wore my 4X shirt to JJ's house. I was like, check it out, guys. 4X games are awesome. But yeah, make sure to check out analoggamer.com, especially the 4X shirt, because it's awesome. But he has a bunch of other cool board game-related shirts on there, too. Nice.
But speaking of the 4X shirt, what's really cool, though, is on the tag, it actually has Epic Gaming Night, our logo and stuff on there.
Yeah.
So I think that's cool.
So if there's a small way to help out the show if you go and look at those shirts and pick one up.
And buy one.
Need a t-shirt.
Make it happen. Or you could get the super extra large like Matt did, and then you could have a tent.
Yeah. That was a slight mistake.
Nice. Okay, so the topic tonight is game stores. So the first thing we're going to talk about is, I guess, a game store that we've visited recently. It's kind of funny because, like, I was talking about this game store that's in Durham, I guess, technically, but, like, in the Raleigh area in North Carolina, called Atomic Empire. I was like, hey, Matt, you should go there. And my wife's like, hey, you want to go to Atomic Empire for Father's Day? And I'm like, yeah, sure. So I went, like, one day before Matt did, and it was completely unplanned.
Yeah.
Now, this is in Raleigh?
Yes.
It's about a 2-hour drive, right?
It's like an hour and a half from where I live.
Yeah.
Okay.
From where I was, it was only like a 20-minute drive.
What?
But I was in Raleigh, so.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Because
I
was in Raleigh for Christian's thing. So.
Nice. So, but yeah, basically, they have this game store there that's like really cool because it's like huge. Like, as far as like most game stores I've gone to, like, they're really small, and like they have like, a few tables for Magic, and they have a few games and stuff like that. Like, I go in there and like I'm looking at the board game wall, and it's kind of funny because I go to a lot of these like game stores or like even Barnes and Noble and stuff like that, and since I have a decent sized board game collection, it's always like, well, they have some good games here, but I already have like all the good ones out of these, so there's nothing here that I really want. And I was there and I was like, they have like a whole bunch of stuff that just came out. They like had Forbidden Stars, and I'm like,
oh yeah,
I don't have enough money for that.
They
That
have
was the
Forbidden
first thing I
Stars already?
noticed. Yeah.
Yeah, they had it on Sunday.
I walked in and it was just sitting there, and I was like, oh, that's that thing.
Yeah.
This box is huge.
Rob doesn't even have his copy yet.
No, it comes in
The
like
30th.
Monday.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good times. But yeah,
No, Tuesday. A week from today.
nice. But yeah, it's cool because they do like a lot of events and stuff there too. I've gone to a bunch of like when I used to play Netrunner a lot, I went to a few Netrunner tournaments there, and my friends still do like Netrunner tournaments there. And of course, they do the Magic thing, which helps all game stores survive, and is a pretty cool little place because they have all the nerdy things.
Yeah. They had a lot more stuff than I'd expect.
What would you guys like about it besides just having nerdy things? Like, and besides it being big, like, I mean, come on, give me a little bit more detail. You're saying like,
I mean, it was cool.
I mean,
like, I went in there and like the guy at the counter like asked me if he could help me find anything, which is always a plus when you go into any store.
yeah, friendly service. Okay.
Friendly service was good. Like they had a very large selection of things. So they had like all the new board games that just come out. They had like all the like classic board games. They had tons of stuff. They have miniatures
They have
and paints
them
and
in different sections or separated like
Yep.
that.
they do have like they have like little they're not really like tables, but they're like sort of that sort of thing, but like
Yeah.
there's like tiers to it, and they have like one that's got like some of the like Settlers of Catan, Dominion type stuff, like popular games, and then they have one that's more like the thematic, and they just have like a lot of like the newer games or the really popular games on those little tables, and then they just have a wall of alphabetized board games, and it's just like slap full of everything you can want. So I was like, okay, well, I'm looking for the Battle Lore expansions. Let me go to B, and there's Battle Lore, and there's the 2 expansions. Yes, I like these.
That's awesome.
Yeah. I mean, they had a lot of stuff. There's like, even though this is a board gaming podcast, like they had miniatures, dice, play mats, they had plushies, they had like giant figurines for video games and just general nerd stuff. Like they had Final Fantasy VII figurines, they had Disney, like old Disney character figurines that are like collectibles, and I was like, whoa, this is crazy.
Yeah, lots of comic books.
The thing that like really impressed me was there was a table that had a bunch of just really big books on it, like almost like those big books that you had in like the first or second grade, where it's just like a big picture book, but they're all hardback. And I was like, oh, what are these? And then I walk up there and then I realized that these are just giant comic books that have the drawings from like some of like the classic strips like Peanuts, or like some of the actual old comics before, like the superheroes and all that stuff. They had some superhero books there, but I mean the things are like 2 foot tall and like 1.5 foot wide, and it's the way the artist draws them whenever he's sitting down to do the strip. So he's not doing them on that small scale, he does it on these larger ones, but they had books that had it at that level, and I was like, I want these. I don't need them. I don't have anywhere to put them, but I want them. And I sat there and looked at those books for like a while.
That's awesome.
And then that's like the first half of the store, and then the back half of the store is just tables upon tables upon tables of stuff for people to just play, like sit down and play tabletop games.
Okay, they had a lot of open tables for people to play.
Yeah, like half of the space they have there is like open tables, and they probably have 20 plus tables.
All right, it sounds a lot like my friend's store in Arkansas.
Yeah, they have like whole like shelves just slapped full of like Warhammer 40k terrain and stuff that you can set up for Warhammer 40k, and like they had like a little stage on like one side, or I know it was there when I went there before, but like they would set up like the tables to like run the tournaments from the stage and stuff like that. So it's pretty cool.
Cool beans.
The thing that impressed me was like off to the side. I don't know if you saw it, Roy, but they had giant pieces of foam that are a little bit bigger than the table for people who sit down and do like the Warhammer 40k stuff, so they can just build a terrain map, like on the fly. And I was just like, okay, all right,
yeah,
perfect.
A lot of the stores that are really into Warhammer or Warhammer 40k like have like a lot of that stuff, but most like some stores don't have that much, and like most stores are either like, this is a Warhammer 40k store, we do a lot of Warhammer stuff here, or they're like, this is strictly Magic the Gathering and we might have a little bit of like other stuff, but this place had everything, so that's why it's pretty cool. They have Dice Masters and Hero Clicks and all sorts of CCGs and tons of role-playing game stuff and all the things.
That's awesome.
Yep,
That's so awesome.
You should go there, Rob.
It's on my list of many things to do.
Nice. So, do you have a game store that you want to talk about, Rob, or
Well, not here. I mean, I don't want to badmouth any local game stores, but some of the local ones near me here, the problem is their size. They're not very big, and they make a lot of their money off of Magic, and so they really don't support your local board gamer. And if they do, their prices are pretty high because they know it's going to sit there for a while, and they're not going to make money, too much money off of it, because you never want inventory to sit there. You're not making money when it sits there. You need to move it. And so they always seem to be priced really high, so I'm not too crazy about any of the local stuff, but it sounds like that place, the Atomic Empire, sounds a lot like my friend's place in Arkansas. It's called Misewell Games. It was an old Hobby Lobby that they took over, and they have 12 plus customizable Warhammer 40k tables. I think 2 of them are like the moon, and all the other ones are terrain, and they have tables upon tables of just extra towns that you can build. And then they have a whole section of the store just to like mainly Magic the Gathering and Yu-Gi-Oh! And Pokemon and other card games that people play for money in tournaments. And then they have a huge section of just board games, and then it's kind of like that as well. The second half of the store, they've got like 50 tables. It's ridiculous. They host though big tournaments. Like they did a PTQ for Magic people. If you know what that is, it's a Pro Tour qualifier, and you have to. I mean, there was like 400 plus people. So it's a big space. They had a lot of tables, but I love that place. Really crazy hours. And I knew the owner. We became friends. His name is Neil Reeves. He was actually the #1 Magic player in the world for 4 years. And so he taught me some cool tips. But his family's from Arkansas. That's why he ended up going back to Arkansas, because him and his wife, they started having kids, and so his family could be closer to his other family. But the store is fantastic. I know this is really bad, and if any of my friends or family are listening, but that was one of the saddest things about leaving Arkansas.
Your family's going to listen and be like, he doesn't care about us. He just cared about the game store.
I mean, you can ask my wife. She's like, do you ever miss it? And I'm like, I miss Misewell all the time. No. But do you miss your friends and stuff? And, your brothers and no, not really. But I miss Misewell. I really do miss that store because it was awesome.
Yeah, I really wish we had like a really nice like gaming event store like that.
I just need to win the lottery. I've already got the logo in my head. I already know what this store is going to be called. It's going to be very similar to Misewell. size wise. But we're gonna do everything. I've already got the logo. It's really cool. I already know what I'm gonna call it. But I'm not gonna give any of that out because I don't want anybody to take my idea.
Nice.
But it's super. And I would pay you guys to run it for me, and I'll just be my best customer.
Awesome.
So,
How much are you gonna pay? This sounds better than my current job.
there would be benefits.
Already sold. That's perfect. You can pay me the same amount I'm paying working now.
Yeah. And there'd be a salary. I mean, if I win the lottery, I'm thinking 35, 40K a year plus benefits. That's not so bad to run a game store. Rob, win the lottery. I'm so happy. All my dreams will come true.
Tell me about it.
Nice.
So, but anyway, some of the questions that we're going to talk about later, I'm going to go over more.
That's cool.
Some of the things, but.
Awesome. So, what do you guys look for in a game store?
I look for space. I really want space. That was the very first thing I wrote down, because a lot of these stores, a lot of these local stores, there's a lot of room for merchandise, which that's how you make your money. I get it. But then they have like 4 tables or 5 tables set up for people to play things. And the majority of those tables, let's say if you have 5 tables, 4 of them are going to be put for Magic, and then the last table is going to be for the dad who brought his kids and they're doing their homework or they're coloring on that 5th table.
Yeah.
And so space is a big deal to me. I need that more than anything if I'm going to be comfortable at your store, because I don't like it when people are always bumping into me when I'm playing a game, or I want to be able to think. But space, and I've got more, but I want to hear what you guys have to say.
Nice. I think that's cool. Like, I like to see like a good like big gaming area. Where I'm currently at in my life, like with my family and all that stuff. Like, I mostly just play games like at my house, and very rarely do I get to go somewhere else in game. So even if we had like a really nice game store here, I don't know if I'd be able to like go and visit and like play games there a lot. But for me, like, I like to see like a really like nice selection of games. Mostly because I do have like a bigger, decent sized board game collection. Most of the time I go into like these game stores, and it's not that I'm just window shopping, it's that you guys have amazing games, but I already have the good ones you guys have. You don't have like the brand new amazing games, so I don't know if they're just not staying on top of that.
I don't think they are, but we can get into that later.
And then the other thing would be just like competitive pricing. Like, a lot of like MSRP, I know, is what the manufacturer says to sell it for, but like Atomic Empire, they have all of their board games 20% off MSRP. So it's like, all right, that's pretty cool. I mean, you can definitely get it online cheaper than 20% off MSRP, but then I got to worry about shipping, and I don't get it just right now. So like 20% off, that seems amazing on like every single board game. So it's like, I can justify buying this. Like, I don't feel like, because I don't have tons of money to spend on board games. I normally only really get board games like for my birthday and Christmas and stuff like that, unless it's something I really want and I have to work hard to make that happen. So I have to like be frugal with my money, and it's like, I can't like look at an $100 game in your store at MSRP and be like, well, it's $60 online. So it's like, that's a pretty big difference. So
yeah, I'd wait 2 days for shipping to save $40.
And I mean, I know a lot of people out there like, you need to support your friendly local game store. I need to support my family also.
Yes.
So there is the mortgage and the diapers and formula and things I have to buy. So, and I still want to enjoy games with my friends too. So,
well, I mean, just to go ahead and get into it, I 100% agree with you, and I think that's the problem with a lot of local friendly game stores is they don't care about board games, because board games really aren't making them their money. They're making their money off of CCGs.
Right.
I mean, that's how the majority of them are staying in business. But the only reason they're staying in business is because those games are, one, they're priced competitively because they know that they're going to sell. And so they're not worrying about that sitting on the shelves or anything, because it's going to go. If you were to do something like Atomic, like my friend Neil in Conway with Might As Well Games, He had a very similar thing. Like if he got in a package of games and let's say they were dinged or dented a little bit, immediately 50% off. And the game may be perfectly fine, but the plastic was ripped, 50% off. And then most of his board games were about 15 to 20% off too. I spent a lot of money and I supported that store because for the exact same reason. I do have a family, I do have a mortgage, I got car payments and all stuff. Why would I spend $100 at your store when I can get it on Amazon for $60? You know, now I'll support my friendly local gaming store for $75, $80. They still get my business. They get my repeat business. I come back and you build that relationship where I don't look online anymore. And a lot of stores, and I'm sorry I'm going into a rant, but this really does bother me. And a lot of stores can do special orders for you. So even if they don't have the game on the shelf, they can order the game for you. But I just think a lot of people, our little group, our little clique, we're not big enough yet. There's not a big high demand yet right now for board gamers, and so that's why it's you know, we're okay. You know, we have our little section. You know, it's like we have our 5 songs on the jukebox. You can't say that I'm profiling because I've got these 5 songs in the jukebox, even though everybody else likes this. So they have their little corner of board games, but they really don't support the local board gaming community. And I would give you my money gladly if you just helped me out here. You know what I'm saying? Offer a good product at a good price. It's just ridiculous.
I always think it's funny when it's like, hey, do you have this in stock? No, but we can order it for you, and we'll wait a couple weeks for it to come in, and then you can pay MSRP for it. I'm like, I know how to use Amazon. Like,
Right.
it's
Well, for example, Star Wars Armada, when it came out, $99.99 if you went to your local board game store. On Amazon, the day it came out, $63.97. Fantasy Flight is still making their money off of that $63.97. It's not like they're not making money.
and those companies that are selling them are still making money.
They're still
off
making
of it.
their money.
But I'm sure they're making.
You have to make a profit, but
They're not
man,
making margin on the single copy, but the hundreds of copies that they're selling at that price is where they're making their margin. And
Absolutely.
I think maybe if game stores looked at a little bit more like moving them off the shelf would be better than just making a big margin on it and just having it never sell might not be as good as having a little bit smaller margin on it to be a little bit competitive and just have them just go off the shelf because people are like, yes, I'll get this. Because I mean, you don't have to be as cheap as the internet. You just have to be cheap enough to like counter the shipping, you know?
Yeah, because not waiting 48 to 72 hours, if I can have it in my hand right then and there, I'll pay more for that experience. I see it, it's there, I'll pay more for it to take it home right then and there than having to wait. Now, at the same time, I do understand why stores don't necessarily do it because it is a risk, because how many groups in that area really do play board games, and if I am going to sell it at such a price and I have to move so many products, let's say I ordered 10 copies of Star Wars Armada. Okay, does that mean all 10 copies are going to sell where I can justify selling it at $75 or something like that? So I also think that goes into knowing your market. If you're in an area that just does Magic, you should probably primarily do that. But where we live, because we're all here centrally located pretty much in North Carolina, there are a lot of board gamers here in our area. But this store that you guys are talking about is about 2 hours away. So again, I'm going to go online to Amazon. I'm not going to drive 3.5, 4 hours there and back to pick up a game to save the $20 that I just spent in gas. So I really think, and if you're a local board game store, I'm talking to you, I'm not saying any names, but I mean, look on Meetup. It's a great app. There's a group on Meetup that has 300 plus board gamers here locally, and they meet twice a week and play board games. There's a lot of people here that spend money and will play these games, and it's getting bigger. I mean, we've talked about it in the past. Board games now becoming on TV shows and movies and other things like that. It's something that these people need to recognize and work on, but they're just not doing it, and it makes me upset. I got spoiled so bad by my friend's store, and now everything else just really pales in comparison.
Do you have anything to add to our rant, Matt?
Sorry.
So my thing is, you guys keep using the term friendly local gaming store, and I feel like that's the big thing for me. Is the operant word of that is friendly.
Yeah, yeah.
And I feel like there's a lot of places that I've been to that, like, maybe back when I was playing Magic, or maybe, you know, I just wanted to check this thing out, or try to, you know, maybe there was a comic book shop or something, and I was like, hey, I just want to kind of maybe start to get into this. I think this might be something I'm interested in. I go in, you know, it's just all about the person's experience there, because I've been to places where nobody says anything to you. You just walk in, they're having a conversation with like a regular or something. They just don't acknowledge that you're there, and the whole time you're just kind of there doing your own thing. And if you ask a question, you know that the person behind the counter might not be knowledgeable, so they're like, I don't know. Like, this came up at Atomic Empire. This isn't a bad thing, but I was looking at those big comic books, and I was like, man, if you guys have like this specific comic and like that big book style thing, and the guy was like, you know, I'm not sure. He's like, but give me a second, and I'll see if I can like find it, like a list of stuff. So even if we don't have it, you know, I might be able to order it for you. And he just went through and was just looking at a list, and he's like, I don't see it anywhere. And I'm like, oh, okay, well, thank you. I mean, I appreciate, you know, your time. And when I came in, there were 5 people at the front door that were all employees, and they're like, hey man, what's up? How you doing? What you looking for? Anything, like, you know? They were just super friendly, super personable, and I feel like it's a place that I could go back to and like develop a relationship with a person, as opposed to just like show up and be shunned.
Yeah,
like, it's
because they do have attitudes. Yeah, nerds are some of the meanest people in the world.
It's weird, isn't it? Because it's like, this place is essentially gonna make or break off of the community that's attached to it. Yeah. And to have people at these places who, maybe it's just they assume, hey, I'm a nerd, this is my job. My job's going to be super easy because I'm just going to stand here all day and not do anything. And other nerds are going to come in and go, hey, do you have this? And I go, nah, man, sorry. And then they'll walk off. And I'll be like, okay, cool, thanks for that $30, $40 check or whatever. And I'll just go on my merry way. But it's like, there's so much more you could do with that like gets repeat customers. Because it's like, I feel like I'm a terrible example for this, because I don't buy things, because I don't have a need to buy board games with you two around, so there's no purpose. But like, when I was at Atomic Empire, I considered buying a bunch of things there that weren't board game related, just because of the stock of stuff they had. Yeah. Like, I was like, ooh, this is a really cute like Cthulhu plushie. That's awesome. I want that. But do I need it? And then I'm like looking at the big comic books, and then I'm looking at like the collectible figurines, and I'm just like walking around like, man, all of this stuff is really cool. And there are people who are like, hey man, you need anything? I'm like, okay. And I'm like, nah. And they're like, well, if you do, find me and we'll find it for you. And I'm like, okay, sweet. And it's like, I don't know. What does
that has to do on management though?
I've totally been to those stores where you open the door, you walk in, it's like a really small shop, you're like the only like customer, and when you walk in, you just interrupted their D&D game that they're playing, and the owner gets up and like, it's like, I mean, he asks you if he can help you find anything, but then like he's just standing there staring at you the whole time, being like, you feel like they're looking at you like, when's this guy gonna leave so we can get back to our game? Yeah. It's like, oh man, I just halted everybody's D&D game. Well, I mean, they might have something that I want, but I'd have to find it under all the dust, and now I'm uncomfortable.
Well, see, that was the thing I liked about Atomic Empire, is the people who were there to work were working. Like, they weren't like playing a Magic game with somebody or talking about how OP this new thing is, or like, they were there to help the people who were shopping. Yeah. And there were games of stuff going on in the back, and I mean, they could sit down and watch and stuff like that, but they were still there with a primary purpose of working, as opposed to just having fun and getting a paycheck.
Nice. Yeah, definitely in like my line of work, as far as like retail and stuff goes, it's all about like helping the guest and like trying to go above and beyond, and like not only help them with something, but like see if you can like make sure like they know where everything is, and if you help them find one thing, what's the next thing they need help with, and try to talk to you about the stuff. And I feel like it's so easy to do that at a game store, like especially if you're passionate about the games. Like I might not like currently play Magic, but I could like help people out with that stuff like crazy just cuz like that's what I'm excited about. So it's like, man, I can tell you about all these board games that are awesome and these new things that came out, but a lot of times at these places you're just interrupting their game sometimes.
Yeah, I mean that was the thing about Atomic Empire is I walk up and I asked the guy about the big comic books, and he was like, I mean, I'll be honest, I don't know what you're talking about. I have no idea. But he was like, but I'll tell you what, we can look for it, and like you know, he was like super nice and willing to learn. So it's like, I mean, even if he didn't know, he was still there to help, and there were other people around to where he could be like, hey man, what's this? What's this guy talking about? But I don't know.
A lot of our questions here we've already covered in mine and Rob's rant. Is there any specific ones you want to look at or talk more about, Rob?
Okay. On a lighter note, still I think more board game places or more stores and places should be doing this. But if you want people to play your games, I really think you should have a demo guy. Like, for example, my buddy's store, Misewell, in Arkansas. He had this guy that worked for him. His name was Brian King. Great guy. And one of Brian's jobs is if he saw the customer that had questions about a game, because they had a whole library of used games where you could demo the game before you played it. Or if you were new to Magic and you've never played Magic, they had like 10 different decks made up, which at a store like that is nothing. And Brian's job is he taught you how to play the game. And you just did a couple quick rounds. And I really think maybe not having a demo guy, because not everybody can afford to do that, but having a library where people can try things out. Because a lot of games look amazing, but they also look very complicated. But when you break it down, it's really not that complicated. Like Eldritch Horror. It's a fun game, and it looks intense, and it is intense, but your moves and everything, it's not really complicated. You have your options of what you can do. And so I think if they had a library where people could try out different games, it would help push the genre of board games. You know, like, okay, Dead of Winter. We know it's a hot game. Let's do a round of Dead of Winter. You like this game? Great. Here it is on our shelves. But I really think people having a demo library would help a lot. And then, of course, deals on games and stuff like that. And then I think you guys hit the nail on the head. Being friendly. You know, I used to be a sales manager for a company, and I've been in sales my entire life or my entire professional career. You would be surprised how much just acknowledging somebody and having a smile on your face while you acknowledge somebody would really help your business. But I don't imagine, you know, Matt and Roy, those experiences where you felt uncomfortable, you're probably ever going to go back there and buy a game from those people. Not only that, but the genre that we're talking about, it's a hobby genre. It's not an essential. They're not selling food or shelter or clothing or anything. And so, not that you need to be over the top, but you need to be nice to people, you know, especially if we are nerds. A lot of nerds are quiet, reclusive people. They're not really outgoing. And I'm not saying get in their face, but hey, man, you're welcome here. Not get out of my way. You know, I need to roll a D20 to see if I kill this dragon. And so just attitude, just a smile and acknowledge somebody. But yeah, we answered a lot of these. We did answer a lot of these.
I guess we'll go to this one. Do you think with the board game hobbies growing that we'll see more game stores? Because, like, there's board games everywhere now. Like, it feels like maybe it's just because I'm looking from, like, the inside at all the other game things and I'm always looking for it, but it just feels like a lot more people are talking about tabletop games. Like
they are.
Like, my HR at work was like, hey, my fiance plays a whole bunch of video games. Like, it'd be really cool if like we could play board games. Do you have suggestions of some board games I could play with him? And I was just like, mind blown. So it's like everybody wants to get in on some sort of interactive gaming because
that's adorable, by the way.
Yeah. So, But yeah,
It's like this syndrome of like once you buy a gray car, then you start noticing how many other gray cars are out there.
Oh my god, that was so. When I was out in Raleigh before I went to Atomic Empire, I went and test drove a Tesla, right? And I was like, dude, this is super sweet. And then, get out of the Tesla, start driving to Atomic Empire, saw like 3 Teslas on the road. I was like, what is this?
Yeah.
This
And you
is
may
insane.
never notice them before, but you just drove the Tesla. Yeah.
and I feel like with everything like these days, like being so digital and like, I mean, maybe not in Matt's case, but like a lot of people like sit in front of a computer all day at work and like other things like that. Like when they get home, they don't necessarily want to plug back into a digital device. Like sometimes it's good to like hang out with friends and unwind and not necessarily be staring at a screen, other than what we do staring at Twitch chat. But
Well, that's kind of the rut that I've gotten into recently. It's like where I get home and I'm like, man, I could play games. Like I was playing The Witcher a lot, and then like a week or 2 ago I just stopped, and I haven't picked it up since. And it's like I don't know why, but I just have like more of a desire to be like, I just want to go outside and do things like. And it's weird because I guess I don't know. This is completely off topic, but it's like when you get to that point where you're like kind of socially inept and you're like just a bit of an introvert. You don't want to be like, hey friends, do you want to do something or things and stuff?
dude, I do that. I don't care.
Like my thing is like most everybody I know who I'd want to hang out with, like they either have like a wife or a family or a significant other in some way, and I'm like, I don't want to be like, hey, can I just rip you away from most all of your life real quick, just to do things with you for like just a 2-hour period that's going to be relatively insignificant in your overall life. I don't know. It's weird.
No, it's not insignificant, and that's probably your body. And the reason why I say your body wanting to go outside is your body needs vitamin D. Sunshine.
You're right.
No. Seriously, I get into that funk sometimes because I do get to go outside, taking clients and stuff. Showing them different things. I do get my in and out, but sometimes I'm just bogged down with paperwork, and I'll be inside for like 3 days. And I'm just working, I'm typing on the computer, putting a lot of stuff together, and it's like, I really do just need to like step outside. Like, if I get one more text or phone call, or if I have to read one more email, like, no, I just need to go to the mountain or something where I have no cell service, and just walk outside. So that's not weird or anything like that. And people go in stages. With The Witcher, it was what it was, and it's still a great game. You'll probably play it again, but I see what you're saying.
Oh, yeah.
But to answer the question, I do hope we see more and more game stores. And I think you also hit the nail on the head earlier where, and I've seen it personally in my own life with people where friends and family, they're starting to put down the cell phones and they're starting not to watch, as much TV and things like that because our world is becoming so digital, it's almost overwhelming. And so, that's what's so great about playing cards or playing Magic or playing board games. It's we can just connect. Like, we can sit here and we can connect and we can talk and there's interaction. And so I do think it's starting to make a comeback. I think that's another reason why board games are starting to boom again. I mean, a lot of people, the Dice Tower, Plaid Hat, all these other people that do big podcasts, the Secret Cabal, a lot of them are saying right now that we're in the golden age of board gaming. Like, it is a big boom right now. And so I really think we're going to see more game stores. I just hope they all listen to this podcast and do the opposite of what we were ranting about. Because I'll give you my money if you do it.
Yeah. I feel like if we see more board game stores, or not even specifically board game stores, but just game stores in general, I think you'll see them
hobby stores.
be of the style of Atomic Empire, where it's a bigger store. I think the smaller boutique stores are going to kind of go by the wayside because not only can they only have a limited stock of things, but they have a smaller venue that they have to fill. And I feel like the bigger stores, it's just the way this country kind of operates, where it's just like
bigger is better.
Bigger, please. All the bigger things. Yeah. And it's just I just don't see very many like small little stores making it. Not that there's going to be like big hobby chain stores, but like Atomic Empire, it's not a chain, but it's a bigger store and it has a bigger selection of things. And it
will draw more people in.
Yeah.
Atomic
exactly.
Empire, its size will draw people in. Those little stores that make it, the main reason why they're making it is because they have a very fierce following. It's the same people that come in and buy cards or buy this, but they really don't get a lot of walk-ins. Or if they do get walk-ins, people walk right back out.
And you gotta
know,
pay that.
typically-
Gotta pay that $100 for that one little planeswalker.
I was gonna
Right.
say, and typically, the small boutique stores, the only thing they have are like collectible card games, and it's like,
Yep.
okay. Well, I mean,
Oh,
hey,
here's your
if you're
7
making
board
money,
games. You do have a board game section. You
Yeah.
have Catan, Settlers
Life.
of Catan, Star Trek Catan, Monopoly. Oh, okay.
Connect 4 is in the back if you need to.
Right? Oh, you do have Bang the Dice game. Wow, you guys are, doing great.
Kicking it real,
Yeah.
but
So, I don't know if you guys have seen, but there's a bunch of board game cafes popping up in like a lot of the major cities. Like a lot of people are trying to open up board game cafes. So, what do you guys think about the board game cafe model? Do you guys know what that is? Have you heard of that, Matt? So like a board game cafe is basically where they they have like a little bit of food and stuff like that, and like coffees and drinks and things like that. But then they also like have a huge board game library where the main draw to come in there is to like pay like a surcharge, like $5 or whatever, to come in, and then you just pick a board game off the shelf and you just play that board game. It's almost like coming over to my house and getting a board game, but basically you pay a little bit of money to play board games with your friends.
And then you can order food while you're doing it too. And the food's
Is there
like a burger or something. It's
Yeah,
nothing
yeah.
crazy.
is there like any particular like research or anything done about them? Because that to me seems a bit unsustainable.
Well, normally it's in like the bigger cities where people like don't have a
So
lot of
it's-
storage space for board games, or
Okay.
or they want to try out stuff
Or there's-
before they buy it, you know?
Because like, so for me, my issue would be I would go to a store like that, like probably alone, and be like, hey, does anybody want to do a thing? And around
But people
here,
do that,
there
though.
would be. I know, but around here, I don't think there would be enough people, like in
Right.
the store to be like, yes, let's do that. But I guess at bigger places, you're probably just fine with that.
Yeah, I know Snakes and Lattes, like in Toronto, Canada, they have, like in that area, they've opened multiple cafes where they have huge board game collections. I think they said their collection's like the biggest board game collection in like North America or something like that. They just have a huge board game collection where people can just go and take the copies off the shelf and play the games. And they also have people that are specifically there to teach people how to play the game. Like your waiter will teach you how to play the game.
That's actually really cool.
So,
Yeah, it's
so,
great.
and if you go in there and you're like, I heard board games are cool, I don't really know what we should play, and they'll be like, hey, do you want to play something like light and silly? Do you want to play something a little bit heavier? Do you want to play something that's more strategic? Like, what are you in the mood for? And they try to get
Crushes your soul.
they try to get an idea of like what you like, and then they'll bring you the game and like set it up for you and teach you how to play and get you started and take your order and go get you like a little panini off their panini press and a coffee or whatever. So it's very interesting that these little cafes are like popping up in these big cities. I don't think we could ever have something like that in like this area just because the population's not, I guess, dense enough to sustain something like that. But it's still very interesting.
If you did it here, it would have to start off more for the food. Like you'd have to have really good food, and you'd have to have like a section for people that maybe just wanted to eat. Because Winston-Salem's not very small. I mean, we have 230,000 plus people here, and so it's not necessarily a small city, but it's not a metropolis or anything like that. I want to dream that possibility could happen. You know, like I would love it. I love the idea. It's kind of like those new movie theaters now where you can go in there and order a meal while you watch a movie now, and you sit in your lazy boy and stuff. Have you guys heard of those?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so this is like the board game equivalent of that. You know, you pay a little charge, and then you get to order food and do whatever. So I think it's a fantastic idea, and it solves a question of food being around the game, because I'm pretty picky about food around my games, or at least what type of food. But if they're comfortable with it, great.
Well, so here's what I was thinking with that, and the reason I kind of like that idea is because if you notice there are a bunch of popular games or there are a bunch of games that people keep coming in to do, it would probably be super easy to just make a game board out of wood. Like in the same way that like the TI3 table you were showing me.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
you can make something like that, and then if somebody wanted to come in and do that, instead of giving them the game board, you just go, "There's the table," and then that's going to be more resistant to staining, so you don't necessarily worry about the food or the drink or anything like that. So you don't necessarily have to worry about this board that could be high quality cardboard, but still is water soluble. I don't know.
They actually have like the Snakes and Lattes place has like a whole video series on YouTube called How to Snakes, and they basically talk about like giving tips, because I guess they get lots of questions about their board game cafe, like different tips of what to do for different things. And they have one video where they're showing how to make the board games more durable, and basically like spray varnish the boards, and like they put a lot of the cards in sleeves, and they also have multiple copies of the game, so when one gets damaged they can replace parts, and then they make sure to save all the extra bits so they can put them in the right game. And it's like they literally have people that their job is just maintaining the games. Like, it's crazy that they have like enough business to be like, we're focused on board games here, and we have people that teach board games, we have people who prepare and fix board games, like sleeve them and varnish them, and we have people that make food. So it's pretty cool.
I want to go to one like right now. Like that'd be so awesome.
I know they have like some in like LA and like some of the bigger cities, and I think like New York and stuff like that has some. I think Tom was talking about having gone to one in Ohio.
Miami?
In Ohio, where
okay.
Columbus, probably.
Yeah, where they had Origins. So, but yeah, pretty cool stuff. All right. So, if anybody has any questions for the podcast, feel free to email us at epicgamingnight@gmail.com, and we can answer them on the podcast. So this week, we have a question from Rob. What is that question?
No, I was just wondering, what is your, which I already know the answer, but what is your favorite board game company?
So,
what's your favorite board game company?
For me, seeing that like Battlestar Galactica, Battlelore, Rex, Android, Cosmic Encounter, XCOM, Arkham Horror, Wiz War, Lord of the Rings, Runebound, Talisman, like all, like most half of my shelf is full of
Just
this.
look for the blue square.
Yeah. Thematic, story-driven, lots of highly produced bits. My favorite board game company is Fantasy Flight, but they're also like the big company out there. So I'm sorry that I'm not like calling out like the little indie guys and stuff like that, which they make tons of great games. But I definitely like Fantasy Flight games. I'm a little bit of a fanboy. Like, everybody at Gen Con was like, hey, I'm going to enter this tournament and do this thing. I was like, hey, I need to get in the in-flight report because I want to see what new games are coming out with. I need to follow.
Oh, absolutely.
And like I listen to like I get really excited when like I listen to like the podcasts and like interviews of like the people that design games for them, and like when they're interviewing Christian Peterson about like how the company started. Like, I was just the other day I was listening to a podcast from years ago of Tom Vassell interviewing Christian Peterson, talking about, oh yeah, we just had Twilight Imperium 3 come out and it was a big hit. Like, we're really surprised about how well that is sold. That's definitely been our biggest selling game so far, and we're trying to come out with several other big box games like that. And it's just crazy to listen to people talk about all the awesome stuff going on that far back. So I think that was like 2006 or something like that.
Is someone playing Sonic the Hedgehog?
I am, and I'm very glad that you got that. I'm not playing Sonic the Hedgehog, but that's my text message to him.
But
Matt,
that is from Sonic the Hedgehog, though.
Matt just found the Chaos Emeralds.
That was who texted me, actually.
Chaos Control!
President Obama sending me some text messages.
Nice.
So who's your favorite company, Matt?
I don't have one. President Obama's favorite board game company is Square Enix, though, if you're curious. Not a board game company. But I don't know. Like, I haven't played enough to like say, oh yeah, clearly I like the stylings and the trappings of all this stuff.
Yeah, yeah.
And if I were to go based entirely off of what's in Roy's room, like Roy just said, most of them are going to be Fantasy Flight games. So I've played a bunch of Fantasy Flight games, like one Plaid Hat game. And really,
you wouldn't even
I
be
have
able to
no
name
idea
what the rest are.
Yeah, I would have no idea. Like, I really like Zaya.
Yeah, and that's a Kickstarter game too. So like that's
Perfect.
that's
Yeah.
their only game. So Far Off Games is the name of that company. So
I'm glad you guys-
that's the cool thing about board games is like there can be some really amazing stuff made by these like little tiny companies that like don't really have a huge following or huge name. Like if they put their mind to it and like get backers or even have like their own funding, like they can come out with a game that's just as well produced as like the big guys.
Oh yeah.
Where if it was a computer game, you can't just be like, "Hey, I have an idea for a computer game. Let me make that." Unless it's like a real like indie like small game. If you're trying to come out with like a what do they call them, Matt? Like the big games. I know they have a name for it. Was it the like,
MMO RPG?
triple A titles or something like that? Yeah.
The video games industry, I feel like, is getting a little stale. Like it's getting weird.
I'm so
Like
excited though for one game that's coming out later this year.
Like the AAA games are just they're not doing it anymore. Like it just they have the unique advantage over board games to just be able to put out a product that isn't finished because they'll be able to patch it. So they'll be like, "Oh, we got to hit this release target, so here's a half-finished game." Or like when Assassin's Creed Unity came out, and it was like unplayable, and the frame rate was like locked at 10, and it was like atrocious, and everybody's like, "Why did we pay $60 for this?" But it's like board games don't have that problem because if it's not finished, nobody's gonna buy it.
Yeah. I mean, literally, they have reviewers, and a lot of people go online and look at these reviewers for their board games, and like if the board game gets terrible like reviews,
It's shut down. It is not going anywhere. Yeah.
Well, like that's the thing. Board gamers are like smart purchasers, whereas opposed to the majority of video gamers are like pre-purchase Call of Duty 27. Why? Because it's the same as Call of Duty 2 through 26. And so, you know, they just keep doing that, and it's not. I don't know. It just wouldn't work in that thing. So, Rob, to get back to a point, what is your favorite game?
Okay. Not to jump on the bandwagon, but Fantasy Flight is absolutely amazing. A lot of my games that I own are Fantasy Flight. The mechanics are great. The quality is great, and the components are fantastic. They do a fantastic job. But I am completely on this bandwagon. There has not been a Plaid Hat game that I have played that I have not fallen in love with. Every single game I have played from them has just been absolutely amazing. It really has. And they may not have the size that Fantasy Flight has, and that definitely limits them on the components. I don't want to say quality of game. For example, because Dead of Winter, it doesn't have, the plastic minis, but the game itself is just absolutely phenomenal. I would love it more if it had a big box version, but
I mean, if you look at stuff like Mice and Mystics, it's like beautiful with tons of awesome miniatures in it too.
Yeah.
Do you have Mice and Mystics, Rob?
I will have it before the end of the year. No. Like,
I'm so
I'm
excited.
I'm not going to hit my 100 game mark, but there are definitely a handful of games left that I really want to buy. I take that back. I'll have Tail Feathers before the end of the year, or when they release it.
Yeah, Tail Feathers.
I just don't know about Mice and Mystics, but those two game companies are just. I haven't played a dud yet.
I feel like they're both shooting like for like sort of the same goal. Like we want a thematic storytelling, not really storytelling game, but like a thematic game that tells a story and makes an experience. And I feel like that's right up our alley. So like most of the games that those companies make, they're like aimed directly at us.
And that's the thing.
Don't just make a game to make a buck. Like they really care about their game. They really care about putting their name and their logo and their heart and soul into that thing. It's not just a pasted on theme or really cool stuff. Like, you can tell, kind of like all right, real quick. I love the show The Walking Dead. Saw an interview with all the actors. They are crazy dedicated to their roles in that show. Mm-hmm. You know, like Andrew Lincoln, he read like 6 leadership books on how to be a good leader before he started the show, because, you know, he becomes a leader of The Walking Dead. I feel it's the exact same way with those companies.
He's actually the leader of The Walking Dead. Like, he literally leads the zombies.
Oh yeah, he eats them all.
No, he leads them. Like, he leads the zombies. Like, I'd be more excited about the show if it was like the necromancer of the zombies and it was just about him, like, leading them into battle.
They've done some pretty cool things with zombies, but I feel like where Fantasy Flight and Plaid Hat Games and other board game companies as well is they do a lot of research. They make sure that the game is going to play well and that you'll replay the game. Because let's take this for example. Roy, I own Dead of Winter. You don't. But if you had the chance, would you not want a copy or pay for a copy of Dead of Winter?
Yeah, I definitely want it now. I mean...
But why not? Why? I've got a copy.
Because you're not over at my house every day. Like, there's times when you're not here when I want to play it.
But the game is just so good, though.
Yeah, it's really good.
It's also just so good where it's not like where your friend has a copy, I can play theirs. Like, I want my own set of Battle Lore.
Yeah.
You've got Battle Lore.
Yeah.
Why should I want it? No, it looks that amazing. Like, I want what Fantasy Flight and Plaid Hat Games are putting out. Like, that's what's so great about those companies is it's just the dedication.
I feel like they start off with theme and they go, hey, this is what we want to do. And then they have a team of people who go through and hone that. And then they have a team of people who are like, okay, well, yeah, sure, it can look pretty and we can tell a story and stuff. But without, like, solid game mechanics, there's not really much there. It's kind of like a story with some, little colors.
Well, they were just
pictures.
like Plaid Hat Games was just talking about their new game coming out, Ashes: Rise of the Phoenixborn. You know, there is a whole background and story in the rulebook about the Phoenixborn. Like, before the game takes place, like the prelude, there's a whole backstory in the rulebook on how this world came to be and why everyone's that way. You know, I just love that idea. Like, they're really painting a picture of this is where we're coming from and this is everything that's going on. And man, it just gets me excited.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, guys. Well, we're a little over, so we should probably end this thing.
Well,
did you see the last podcast from the Secret Cabal? 4 hours.
Hey.
We're doing pretty good at an hour 10, bro. 4 hours.
We're doing pretty good.
Podcast.
Yeah, man. It normally takes me like a week or so to listen to one of the podcasts.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, I'll listen to an hour now, and then listen to 30 minutes now, and I mean, it's awesome. But
yeah, they're good. They're good podcasts, and they're usually a little over 2 hours. But I saw this last one that just downloaded. It's like 4 hours and 11 minutes. I was like, oh my goodness.
Yeah, if anybody from Secret Cabal ever listens to this, you should come on our podcast because you guys are awesome.
Yes, you guys are awesome.
Speaking of which, should we do a small segue and announce the thing that's happening soon?
On July 7th? What's happening?
Yeah. I don't know if Roy wants to say.
So,
is that 100% confirmed, though?
I mean, he said he was going to come on, but we're going to try to, like, be interviewing, do more interviews on the show, so, like, mix it up. Every once in a while have interviews with different producers of companies, publishers, and different things like that. But I think the first person we're going to have is Isaac Vega from Plaid Hat, who did Dead of Winter and a bunch of other games. A game that Rob just got, the BioShock Infinite, and
Phoenixborn.
Ashes is coming out, and he also has City of Remnants and stuff like that. So he has a bunch of really good games. So make sure to check out our live stream on the 7th to see that.
Yeah.
Isaac, I'm so excited. You may not remember me. I do have a picture with you. That's not weird. I don't think it's weird.
You have like super fangirled right now.
You're like, I did warn him that we were very enthusiastic about his games when I invited him on the show, so he should hopefully be a little. I might need
right before the podcast.
He, like,
remember me? as that one guy that took their picture with you last year at
And
Gen
now
Con?
I'll tweet him and be like, man, I'm sorry for anything Rob says on the show. He's just a really big fan.
I am a fanboy. Speaking of taking pictures, the guy who created Eldritch Horror and Mansions of Madness, his name is Corey something.
Knezda?
He is like 5'0" with a bowl haircut and like 85 pounds soaking wet. He's a very small man, and I took my picture with him last year, and I looked like I ate him. Like, he is so small, but I still took my picture. I had a big fanboy. He was like, thank you for being a fan, but I think he took my picture because he was more scared of me than he was, appreciative of the fact that I was a fan.
Corey's list of games that he's worked on is
Ridiculous.
Impressive. Because
Really.
when I was listening to that podcast, Christian Peterson was talking about how Corey Knezda pretty much made the expansions for Twilight Imperium, and I'm just like, Twilight Imperium.
Yeah.
So I was like, oh man. Okay, doke, guys. Well, thanks for coming out and checking out the podcast. Make sure to check us out on Twitch. That's www.twitch.tv/Epic Gaming Night. We stream board games on Friday nights, and we have the podcast on Tuesday nights at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And then also make sure to check us out on Instagram and Twitter and all that. Write us reviews on iTunes. That helps other people find us. That would be very awesome. And anyway, just check us out. Let your friends know.
I'm going to try to get a picture this year with Eric Lang, because he's also a phenomenal board game producer.
This turned into the fanboy episode.
Bro, I love it.
Anyway, thanks guys for coming out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Talk to you later.
Yeah.